Hey guys, it's Konrad Bobilak here, CEO of Investors Prime Real Estate and author of Australian Property Finance Made Simple. And I've made this video for you today about lenders' mortgage insurance. It's a very common question that I get asked by first-time investors and even investors with a few properties. Should I pay lenders' mortgage insurance? Should I avoid paying lenders' mortgage insurance? A lot of people say, my broker's telling me not to pay lenders' mortgage insurance. And a lot of mortgage brokers are very anti lenders mortgage insurance. So I wanted to cover this video because I wanted to show you lenders mortgage perspective from a completely different perspective than the normal, which is just a big fee attached to a loan. And you're going to be surprised, I think, with the contents, because to me, I would always love to pay lenders mortgage insurance if I'm buying multiple properties. And I'm going to show you in this video why lenders mortgage insurance is probably the best investment on your money that you're ever going to make, ever, with any type of investment, which is a bit strange considering it's a fee that you're paying. So let's go through the video and let me share with you a topic that's very neglected, and I think you're going to be surprised at some of the twists in this video, specifically talking about a product that should be really a nonsense topic, which is just a fee attached to a loan. So let's talk about lenders mortgage insurance. Bit of a disclaimer, I'm not giving you financial advice here, I'm just giving you education, and obviously by following what I teach isn't a guarantee you're going to become successful. There is no guarantees in life, guys. The biggest risk in life is you, your own biggest risk. So let me just share some stuff with you about building wealth first and leverage, and then let's talk about lenders mortgage insurance. The rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer, as many people have said over the centuries. It's nothing new that you would have heard that before. The interesting thing is, I believe the rich will continue to get rich until the middle class and the poor start getting educated and become financially literate. You've got to start educating yourself about leverage, and you've got to replicate what the rich are doing. And why is it the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer? And it has to do with psychology, but it also has to do with spending habits and how they approach debt and debt structuring. And this is the biggest difference between the rich and the poor and the middle class, is the rich control assets and they acquire assets using other people's money. They borrow into growth assets. So they borrow 95%, 90% LVR and they acquire assets. The poor are obsessed with paying stuff out and they buy things in their own name. The rich control assets, they don't own assets. The poor are obsessed and conditioned with paying out the house, paying out the investment property. It's mine now, no one can take it from me. So I want to share with you some psychology that I've picked up and some insight working with high net worth individuals and very successful property investors over the decades to show you how they approach leverage and debt structuring and lenders mortgage insurance. Financial literacy is the key to becoming wealthy, guys. In today's world, you're either going to be financially literate and you're going to make it at the end, or you're going to retire dead broke, asset rich, with one house paid off, with no cash flow. The choice is yours. I know it sounds harsh, but that's the reality. And the average Australian is actually on the fast track now to becoming financially broke at 65. The stats show us the average Australian retires with one house paid off, a lot of equity in their house, with no job, and 165,000 in their super fund. Now, what are you going to do in Melbourne or Sydney on 165 grand? I mean, how many years could you live on? 3, 4? And what happens after that? And remember, people are not dropping dead at 65 anymore. Baby boomers are going to gyms, they're drinking NutriBullets, they're living for another 30 years. What are you going to do over 30 years on $165,000? You're going to be struggling. It's not even living, it's just being sustaining. So this is so crucial for you to pick up financial literacy and learn from others that are successful and replicate what they do. It's that simple. By the way, this topic will be covered in my book, which is Australian Property Finance Made Simple, which is out now in any major bookshop, Amazon, and online. You can also look forward to my next book, which I'm just about to finish, which is simply called Real Estate Investing Made Simple, which will be out in early 2018. I'm kind of 95% finished with that book. I'm just tinkering with a few of the chapters. As any artist will tell you, writing a book is like painting. You don't finish it, you just abandon your work, you know? So I'm still kind of tinkering with a few of the chapters. The next book that I'm writing as well, which I've done about 13,000 words, is Australian Property Due Diligence Made Simple, which will be out in 2019. And I've got another book out, which I haven't even started writing. I've just got the cover and the chapters, which is called The Real Estate Millionaire Mentor, which will be out in 5 years from today. Now, also what I want to do is, at the end of this video, I want to give you access to a free online 12-hour home study on real estate investing, no strings attached. You can go and click on the link just below this video and you can access that information for free and learn more about the topic that I'm covering today and any other YouTube video that I'll be doing on this channel. Let's talk about capitalism. Capitalism is basically, and I like going through definitions of things because it really gives you a lot of clarity about what it is. Capitalism is an economic system based on private ownership of the means of production and their operation in profit. Characteristics central to capitalism include private property, capital accumulation, wage labour, voluntary exchange, a price system, and competitive markets. But it is the accumulation of capital. It's not cash flow, it's capital. And capitalists understand that you can turn capital into cash flow through a line of credit or redraw facility. You don't need to focus on cash flow if you want cash flow. Focus on acquiring capital and you can turn it into cash flow. That's the other thing. But you can't turn cash flow into capital relatively easily. So that's the other thing. You can obviously buy property, but I'm saying is that you can't turn, a lot of people that chase cash flow end up being cash flow broke at the end with no capital behind them. But a lot of people that focus on capital accumulation end up being wealthy, both from capital perspective and cash flow perspective. Leverage is used in this particular definition is the use of various financial instruments or borrowed capital as a margin to increase potential return on investment. So leverage is basically leveraging into an asset using other people's money. If you look at the world wealth distribution in 2016, most people think, in terms of the amount of money that people control, most people think that the bottom 20% own around that much, the middle 60% control that much, and the top 20% control the vast majority, 60% or thereabouts. The ideal scenario is obviously an equal spread where majority of the wealth is controlled by the middle class. The bottom has some wealth and then the top 20% control wealth. But the reality is very different. The reality is the bottom control virtually nothing. The poor have no assets behind them. They rent, they don't have any properties, and literally when they stop working, they're on Centrelink and they're renting. The middle class own a small fraction of capital, let's say 15%. The top 15% own the vast majority of land and properties, concentrated in a few families, and the top 5% own a disproportionate amount of wealth. The top 5%, which is really the top 1%, own virtually 15% of all land, buildings, industry in the world. So you have the top 20% control 80% of everything, the 80-20 rule, which is very interesting. It's far from the ideal, and it's far away from what people really think is happening, mainly because they think that the bottom 20 actually have some assets behind them or capital, but the reality is they have no capital ownership. So look at where the rich are putting their money. The rich are obsessed with in terms of wealth distribution and holding their money in equity. The Australian residential property market is worth $7.5 trillion. We've only got about 30% in debt. The rest is capital, it's equity, and it's controlled by wealthy people. If you look at some of the biggest land holdings in Australia are controlled by some of the wealthiest families in Australia. That's nothing new. The only difference between a rich person and a poor person is how they use their time, Robert Kiyosaki, which is very true. And ultimately, your wealth will come down on how to use your time and the people that you hang out with. If you look at the closest 5 people around you currently, you add up their income, you combine their income, and then you divide by 5, I guarantee you will fall within 5% of what you're making. So if you want to make money, upgrade your friends and your circle of influence. Your net wealth will often be determined by your network. That's the key thing. Hang out with smart, wealthy people, guess what? Some of it is going to rub off on you. Now let's talk about debt, because really the difference between the rich and the poor comes down to how they look at debt and how they approach debt, and specifically lending. And your relationship with debt will largely determine your level of success as a property investor. The wealthy have a very positive relationship with debt, and they distinguish between good debt and bad debt. Now, good debt can be described as tax-deductible debt used to purchase or leverage assets which appreciate in value. So the wealthy borrowed 95%, 100% to control growth assets, residential property, commercial property, industrial property, or buy shares that pay dividends. An example of that is a line of credit, secured against your house to trade shares, or margin lending, or interest-only loans used to buy investment properties. Bad debts are basically debts that have no tax deductibility advantages and are predominantly used to purchase assets that depreciate in value. Cars is a perfect example, excluding collectibles obviously, but normal cars, boats, jet skis, plasma screens, all that stuff that we love, that we know is really bad to buy on credit. Those things should be purchased in cash, if you can. If you can't, obviously borrowing money is obviously a solution, but it's not if it's at the expense of you building wealth by securing good debts. An example is home loans for owner-occupied properties. So your home loan is actually a bad debt. Yes, the property can go up in value, but it stops you from accumulating more good debts, more investment properties. Personal loans and credit cards. There is a massive difference in the psychology of a sophisticated investor and the average person. The educated investor focuses on building equity or increasing their good debt. So the true aim of a property investor is to maximize the amount of money they control through property. And leverage is the key. Have a look at this example. This is a very simplistic mathematical example that talks about leverage and return on equity as opposed to return on asset. Now in this example, you have one asset, okay? It could be property, and the asset is growing at 11% per year, and that's a combination of growth and yield, so income and growth. So it could be income of 11%, income of 4% rental, and let's say 7% growth. And the interest is 7%, per year. And that happens to be the average interest rate, by the way, for the last 50 years. So in terms of, as an investor, you've got $100,000 only to spend, okay, in each scenario. And there's 5 scenarios. I just want to show you how wealthy people approach debt versus the average person. So in scenario number 1, this person here has 100 grand to invest. They don't believe in lending anything. So they say, you know what, I don't like, my dad used to say, if you can't afford to pay for it in cash, you can't afford it. So they're basically not borrowing any money. The LVR is 0 because they haven't borrowed any money. The total value they control of this asset is 100,000. Now, 11% on 100,000 is 11,000, okay? So that's the return. Interest is 0 because they haven't borrowed any money. The net return is 11,000 and the cash return is 11%, okay? So they basically decide to borrow nothing and control an asset worth $100,000. In scenario number 2, this investor has borrowed 50% against the 100,000. So they've got 100, they're borrowing another 100,000. So they're 50% leveraged. Now they're controlling $200,000 of this particular asset. Now 11% on 200,000 is 22,000, less the 7% on the 100 they borrowed, which is 7,000. So the net return is 15,000, cash return is 15%. Okay? It's all about cash return. How much cash you're putting in, how much you're getting back. Investor number 3 has borrowed 80%. This could be residential property. So they've got 100 grand, they've borrowed 400,000. So they're controlling at 80% something worth $500,000, growing 11%, which is $55,000 at the end of the year. But they've borrowed money, so they've borrowed 400,000 at 7%, which is 28,000. Now, their net return is 27,000 or 27%. Same with example number 4, 90% gearing, they're controlling $1 million worth of the asset now. They're getting a $47,000 return of 47%. With example number 5, they've actually borrowed virtually 100% of what they're investing in. So this could be a combination of residential property where you're borrowing the deposit out of equity from your home and you're borrowing 90% from the bank. And because they've put their money into the deal, their return is literally infinity. Now, what I can tell you here is the more debt you accumulate, the higher your cash return. The lower your debt, the lower your return. 11%, 15, 27, 47. And this is the key thing. The rich understand this game is all about leveraging other people's money in an asset called property. You know, whether it's property, shares, industrial, residential, it doesn't make a difference. The more money you control, the more money you'll make. As Archimedes said, give me a place to stand with the lever long enough and I will move the world, which is very true. This whole game, guys, is about leveraging other people's money. That's why when people start talking about lenders' mortgage insurance and saving money on a premium, one-off premium that's tax deductible, compared to buying multiple properties, I just think they have no idea what they're talking about. And that's the example I want to give you. Now, what's lenders' mortgage insurance? Lenders' mortgage insurance is simply you're paying a premium for the right to borrow above 80% value against the property. So if if the bank will lend you 80% of the value of any property, as long as you can come up with a 20% deposit. The moment you borrow above 80%, so 90% for example, 85%, in most cases you have to pay lenders' mortgage insurance, which is a premium that insures you defaulting on the loan. It's the only premium you're ever going to pay in your life that insures someone else's position. So you can still borrow up to above 80%, you can go 90% with lenders' mortgage insurance capitalised, or even 90% plus lenders' mortgage insurance. There are two underwriters of lenders' mortgage insurance in Australia, two main ones, Genworth and QBE, and there's a lot of lenders out there that self-insure or charge you a risk fee. Now, let's have a look at a very basic example, okay, of a real property. This is a property, I couldn't find anything exactly at $1 million that I currently have access to, so I got very close. I got 998,000. Okay, so this is as close as I can get to $1 million, and we're going to do an example of $1 million, quite frankly, because it's a simple example. It's a nice number to work with, okay? So this is currently a project that I have sourced for my investment clients, located at 14 to 16 Fisher Parade, Ascot Valley, Victoria. It's 9 townhouses, 3-bedroom, very large, 25 squares, with double lock-up garages, 3 levels, overlooking the river in Ascot Vale, $998,000. Very good plan. Bedroom downstairs, double lock-up garage, in the middle open plan living, and then 2 bedrooms with en-suites at the top. Location is right there, and you can see that this is the Barrabinong River. It's a lovely location, very good area, 8 k's from the city, say 7.6, well, yeah, 8 k's from the city, very good capital growth. Look, Ascot Vale's always done well. You can expect your 9-10% growth per year in that suburb without any problems. Now, let's have a look at the example. So let's say you're an investor, you've got $300,000 in accessible equity from your house, your primary place of residence, and you can either buy one townhouse for $1 million with a 20% deposit, so you take out 200 grand from that equity with no lender's mortgage insurance, okay? Or, and the lender's mortgage insurance will be about $20,000, by the way, on this particular example. Or you can buy 2 townhouses for $1 million each, with a 10% deposit plus paying a lender's mortgage insurance for each, which is 20 grand each. Assuming you service both loans, okay? So I'm assuming that. So you've got scenario 1 is by 1, scenario 2 by 2. And let's assume the area is going 8% capital growth and 4.25% interest only loan. I've misspelled growth there. Do not email me or send me a message that I've misspelled growth. I don't care that I've misspelled growth. This is an example of how to make you wealthy. Those people that want to email me with spelling mistakes, okay, I'm the wrong person, okay? You've misspelled growth, so the example is irrelevant, you know? In fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to fix it right now for those pedantic people out there listening to these YouTube videos, because I know out of 1,000 people that are listening, there's going to be 999 investors, but there's going to be that one person that says, well, you've misspelled growth, okay? So here we go. I'm going to fix it up right now, okay? There's spell check, okay? There's growth. Okay, there we go. Now it's a valid example, okay? Your life is saved now. You can relax. It's a real example now for that person. Growth has been auto-corrected, okay? Credibility is back with Konrad right now, okay? It's hilarious. The reason I said that is because I'm showing examples of how to become wealthy, and there's always this person who goes, you've misspelt this word. I don't care, okay? I'm not an academic. I'm not a VC English literature teacher. I'm an investor. So, have a look at example number 1. Fisher Parade, Ascot Vale, $1 million, $200,000 deposit, no LMI, okay? So this is an example the broker says, why would you pay lender's mortgage insurance? Now, in year 4, you've made $512,000. You can see the equity injection there is $212,000. So 200 deposit, 12 grand in closing costs, legals, etc. And then in year 10, in year 8, you make $1 million in equity based on 8% growth. What if you buy two of them? Okay, what if you buy two of them? If you just put in 100 grand each instead of 200, in year 9 you make $1 million and 51,000, so it takes you a year longer in equity. Okay, and you still make 500 grand in year 5, so you can go again quite easily in those 2 years and buy more property. You can actually go again probably in year 3, 6 and 9. I kind of encourage people to refinance their property every 3 years, get equity and then go again. Now remember, in this example, you've got 2 properties that you've bought instead of 1. Therefore, you paid 20,000 times 2, which is $40,000, lender's mortgage insurance, but the investor has made an additional $1 million in year 9. So you've put in 40 grand, you've made $1 million extra that you didn't have before in year 9. So the question is, would you invest 40 grand to make $1 million in 9 years' time? Is that a good investment? Let me think about it for a second. 40,000, $1 million, it's about 100 grand a year, roughly, give or take. Yes, it's a very good investment. It's the best investment you actually will ever make in your life on anything. What other investment can you put in a 40,000 and make 100 grand every year? Or in this example, $80,000, which is 8% growth on $1 million. So you tell me what investment you can put 40 grand in once, claim it as a tax deduction, and then make 80,000 every single year, exponentially. There is no other investment. Lender's mortgage insurance is actually the best investment you're ever going to make, period. Unless you don't buy 2 properties and you just end up buying 1. Then yes, that's fine, don't do it, okay? But if you're here right now listening to this YouTube video, you're probably a property investor, your ultimate goal probably is to maximize your property portfolio. Always pay lender's mortgage insurance because it's the opportunity of using less deposit money and it's the opportunity of buying more properties faster. I mean, have a think about this, right? How many more properties would you miss out on if you out of that one property? Because it's not only one property that you're controlling in addition to the first property. In year 3, you probably buy another property. In year 6, you buy another property. In year 9. So there's 4 properties you'll miss out on by not paying 40 grand as a one lump sum that's tax deductible. It's almost insane when you think about it. So lender's mortgage insurance is absolutely the best investment you can make if you're a property investor who has a strategy of continuous accumulation of properties. So mortgage brokers start telling you borrow 80 and avoid more LMI. Why? That's so stupid. Unless you can't borrow more money, then absolutely. But if you can borrow more money, there's nothing to think about. Absolutely want to buy multiple properties. You know, and that's the key thing. You made $1 million and 51,000 in year 9. That's what you're forgoing by not doing it. So it's crazy. Remember, leverage is the key when it comes to building large property portfolios, not saving money on fees or premiums, okay? Forget about all that stuff, you know? Focus on the bigger picture. Look what the wealthy are doing. They're always paying LMI premiums because they want to leverage the most out of people's money as possible. That's what it is. I hope you enjoyed that video. I know I'm really passionate about this topic because I hear so much bad advice out there from brokers and accountants and investors saying, don't do this, don't do that. And I mean, every day I get these emails from people saying, what should I do? So I'm sharing some of this information with you to make sure that you guys don't make those mistakes, that you have a really good experience in maximizing your property portfolios. Speaking of further education, are you interested in learning more? If you are, I encourage you to attend my up-and-coming Real Estate Investing Fast Track Weekend. This is an event that I run 10 of these per year in Melbourne. Very small events, only 40 people per classroom. It's a 2-day educational workshop. These are the speakers that I have in the next workshop that's coming up. So we have an accountant, we have a valuer, myself on finance and real estate, and we've got a mortgage broker, and Stephen Molnar, who's a property expert as well, and the MC for the event. It's an amazing 2-day event that you're going to learn a lot of distinctions in. Probably more things you'll probably learn in this event than I've had investors come to me and say, Konrad, I've learned more in 2 days with you than in 10 years of reading books and investing. And that's the reality. Not only am I leveraging off my experience of 20 years, I mean, someone like Cameron Fisher, he's been in real estate for 30 years in Melbourne, has done 5,000 successful auctions. Think about how many properties that is, 5,000 auctions successful. Loans Australia, Stephen McClutchy has settled $1 billion for investors in lending. Think about how many interactions he had with investors, how much knowledge this guy has. So you can leverage all that information over 2 days. In our head office here in Alma Road in St Kilda, All you got to do is check the dates and venues, scroll down below. I run these 10 times a year. They're very exclusive, very limited. They do book out fast, and there is a waiting list sometimes to get into these. So if you are serious about investing, this is the best use of your time and money, guaranteed. Day one is classroom environment. We're going to go through all the theory, finance structuring, very detailed information. Day two, we take you out of the classroom environment, put you on the bus, take you around Melbourne, educate you on the best suburbs, and walk around and look at some development sites and do some on-the-ground research and due diligence, for which there is no substitute really. Now, we cover 4 critical parts of building a large property portfolio. Number one is psychology. So we talk a lot about investor psychology, which is kind of what this video was about. It was about numbers and finance, but really it was about psychology. The difference between paradigms which investors have that are successful versus non-successful investors and novices. Psychology is everything. The way you approach things, the way you look at things will change your objective and your outcome. Also, you've got to have a plan in the system. And in fact, during the 2-day event, I actually sit down with people and we develop a plan of attack individually. You know, as a group, obviously, but you're doing your own plan based on your specific needs and requirements. Also, I give you access to my team of experts and professionals, my solicitor, my accountant, my lawyers, everyone that I've used in Melbourne for decades to build my property portfolio. And we go through property selection methodology on day 2. How to find the best properties and the type of properties, the best areas in Melbourne right now, not 10 years ago, not last year, in today's market. Where are the hotspots? Where are the opportunities? What's going to happen in the future? So this is what we cover, and if you could synchronize these 4 things together, that's the very definition of success. In fact, this is a chapter out of my next book that I'm writing currently, which I'm really excited to bring out end of this year, early next year. If you want to get a copy of my finance book, just simply go to bookonfinance.com.au or jump onto Amazon or any good bookshop. I mean, there's no bookshops left anymore, right? Every time I go to a shopping centre, they keep shutting down. So I'm not sure how many are around anymore, but if they are, they should have a copy of my book. And if they don't, ask them, where's Konrad's book? You know, they should get it. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this is your special bonus, access to an online 12-hour worth of home study for free, no strings attached. It's actually a recording of the Real Estate Investing Fast Track Weekend from over 2 years ago. 90% is still very current. There's 10% that's outdated, mainly to do with finance because of the recent introduction of the new Consumer Credit Code and APRA, changing a lot of the policies or forcing change in the banking system. But fundamentals have never changed. So that's yours for free, valued at $497. It's a very user-friendly interface as well when you log in. It's literally point, play and click and download the manual. It's just 1 page. So you can just watch the videos anytime you like. So don't be scared if you're not into technology. This is not something where it's really complicated. I made it super easy for everyone to use. And once again, it's instantly accessible right now. There's a link below actually you can click on and get your password and username, and you're in and you're watching more information. Plus you get a 265-page manual as well that you can follow all the PowerPoint slides. That's it from me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and this is Konrad Bobilak. I'll see you on the inside.